All right, so we are currently recording, and I'm going to walk through the process of the APA research paper. So the first thing we need to do is find a topic. You can find your topic by using the SPC databases. The whole objective of this assignment is that you acquaint yourselves with the process of research. So if we go to the Library and Tutoring tab, and then into Library Services, we have all of the online library options. So you can get help, you have databases A to Z, we have databases by subject, and then if you find, as you prepare and move through your curriculums, if you like a particular journal, you can also look up at a particular journal A to Z. We're going to go databases A to Z because we're using a database called Opposing Viewpoints. And Opposing Viewpoints is just that. It's all the different viewpoints that have opposition, two sides or multiple sides to the story. The goal with this paper is to choose a topic, write an introduction with a brief summary of the issue, and then one paragraph in favor of, one paragraph opposing, and then in the conclusion, restate the overall argument and conclude with the preference. All of this should be in third person. That means no I's, my's, me's, you's, we's, ours, or us's. All third person. So rather than saying you could say citizens or people or residents. So all third person narration. When we go into Opposing Viewpoints, there are a couple of different ways to look for your topic. You can type your topic in the search bar if you have an idea of what you would like to search. There are some highlighted issues here that you could look at, or you can search by category, and then finally you can browse alphabetically a list of 469 issues. So I am going to go ahead and I'm going to type in minimum wage because that is what the sample paper is about. So we're going to go minimum wage. And the first thing we see is a little blurb that is presented by Gail and Opposing Viewpoints. This isn't a really in-depth discussion of the issue. As you can see, it's only 3 paragraphs long. However, you may still use this in your paper. If we decide that we want to use this, the first thing we're going to do is go up and get our citation. So we click the little citation dialogue thingies at the top, and then we click APA 7th edition. You then select it, copy it, and if you notice, you can send it directly to your Google Drive if you'd like, or directly to a OneDrive. I just like to copy and paste them into my Word document. And here is the sample paper, which you might not be able to see at the moment. So let me go ahead and share that sample paper. So here I have my sample paper. And if I scroll down to the very bottom of my paper, I have my references list. The references should all be left aligned with a hanging indent. This source is already here because, again, it's one of the sources that was utilized in the sample paper. But I'm going to go ahead and paste it again just to demonstrate. If we keep the source formatting, it will likely come up with a gray box around the information. So you want to click the tab that says Merge Formatting, and then it'll automatically align it properly with your sources. The sources should be in alphabetical order. The title should be centered, and the title is references. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead back to the databases now. Okay, so here we are back in the databases. If we go back to the previous page, our original search page, it shows us at the bottom here that there are 17 academic journals. Academic journals are written by professionals for other professionals. So the caliber of information that we're going to get is much greater. Okay, I would encourage you to use a variety of sources so that we're getting the really in-depth discussion in the academic journals, as well as some of the general information that would be provided in news and magazines. Most of your news and magazines are written on about an 8th grade level, so it's not going to get really complicated. The New York Times is written at the highest level of competency, and it's only at like an 11th grade reading level. So that's why we really talk about the academic journals as we are moving into more collegiate and professional work. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on the academic journals. Now I have a list of the articles that are presented through those academic journals. Reaching culturally acceptable and adequate diets at the lowest cost increment according to income level in Brazilian households. It's not really what I'm looking for. This one's from South and Australian Homes. The gig is up. There's no other way to say it. California has destroyed the gig economy. People versus the UK, minimum wages, labor reallocation, and automatable jobs. Although this one talks about the United Kingdom, I really am liking the idea of this automatable jobs. That's your self-checkouts, guys, that are popping up everywhere, right? Many of our retail stores and grocery stores don't have cashiers anymore. Those are jobs lost, and they have been lost because of the minimum wage debates. The corporations decided they'd rather spend the investment on the machines rather than on the people. Right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on this article. When we look at this article, we can see it is set up in APA style. That's another reason why we want to use the scholarly databases, because they're written professionally in the APA style. So we have an introduction. We have an abstract, which is a brief summary of the overall article. And then as you skim, it's broken down into different categories. Methodology would be how these people collected their data. And then they have a subheading of low-skilled versus low-wage individuals. Right? So this one's a really in-depth article. I really like it. So again, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cite it. I'm going to select my citation. I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to go ahead and directly paste it into my works cited list in alphabetical order. After I've put it in alphabetical order in my reference list, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to come back to my article. You have the option that you can highlight and take notes in some of the options, but it does not look like it is an option for this one. So you would want to skim the article, jot down some key points. The idea is that you are paraphrasing and summarizing, not always just copying and dropping quotes. That's the most ineffective way of using information. So skim the article, take some notes. You have the citation, you know where the information is coming from, and then you can move on to your next article. The idea is that you are using a minimum of 3 articles, and that each paragraph should have a minimum of 2 articles, each of the body paragraphs. The introduction and the conclusion do not require sources, but each of the body paragraphs should blend together information from at least 2 different sources. The goal there is that that synthesis is showing that we have a well-rounded understanding of the text and of the issue. If we just summarize one source, that's just one viewpoint. So in an argument-based paper such as this, we need to have multiple viewpoints, not just a single perspective. Okay. After you've gathered all of your sources, you've taken notes, and you've looked at synthesizing them together, you are hopefully drafting and revising the essay. So we're going to go back to the sample paper. Okay, and you can see where I pasted in the Lorden source that we had just looked at. Your source citation for APA style is going to be the author's last name and then the year of publication. With APA, the idea is that we're dealing with recent issues. Therefore, we need to be dealing with recent sources. Okay, so the document that I provided for you shows all of that and is an excellent sample for you to kind of follow or compare and contrast with your own paper. Okay, so you start with the title page. The running head is optional. According to the most recent expectations of APA, running head is only required for pieces that you intend to publish. It's not required for all sources. And we're not really intending on publishing these. So your title page should be in the top third of the page with your title, the student name, and the organization for which you're producing it. No, never seen them. So after you have your title, the student name, and the institution for which this is being produced, you have your title page. And then we scroll down to the next page. You restate your title, provide a brief introduction of the issue, and then transition into your first side of the argument. Okay, so this one says the choice of raising minimum wage is highly debated and controversial throughout the country. On one hand, it would lift the families of low-income workers out of poverty, but also cause others to become jobless and fall into poverty. Raising minimum wage has its fair share of advantages and disadvantages for both businesses and low-income workers. So this is our thesis sentence. Our thesis sentence presents our overall argument about the issue. So it says raising minimum wage has its fair share of advantages and disadvantages for both businesses and low-income workers. We know that we're going to get perspectives from both the businesses and the workers. So in each of our body paragraphs, we need to make sure we have that perspective. Foremost, raising minimum wage has its advantages for both business and low-income workers. So this paragraph is all about the advantages, whereas the next paragraph is all about the disadvantages. And then in the conclusion, we end with which side is preferred. Okay, so ultimately, raising minimum wage has both its benefits and downsides and is left up to debate. Recently, Florida has increased its minimum wage to $15 an hour. Just to let you know, there should be a citation here, so I'm going to go ahead and write citation needed, because that's a very specific piece of information that might not be known by everybody. And if you don't follow the news and don't follow politics, you might not be aware of that. So there should be a citation there. States still determine the minimum wage in the United States, but the federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. And again, that should include a citation. Increasing this number is still widely debated, as there are many viewpoints towards raising it, both good and bad. Raising minimum wage has its fair share of advantages and disadvantages for both businesses and low-income workers. These two sentences are a little redundant, so you really don't need both of them, or you could, really just delete this first sentence. Increasing the number is still, because we've already said that. So I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to go up here and I'm going to cross that out because, again, it's redundant. The final sentence states the student's preference. It says, however, if the nation is going to thrive, people need to be able to earn a living wage, and thus an increase is necessary. So they have again presented that it's debatable, but they've concluded with a very pithy, to the point, concise concluding sentence of the preference. Throughout the paragraphs, we have in-text citations from a variety of sources. So we see Bach, Collick, and Tahn in this one. And then down here we have Cirque. Notice with Cirque, there are no quotation marks. So we know that this information was paraphrased and summarized. Okay. And if we look at the sentence, it says, additionally, many employees of major retailers report This is what's called a signal phrase. By saying major retailers report, we know that information is coming from somebody's report or somebody's article. So that's a signal phrase leading into your cited information. Whereas the first time the student used information in this paragraph, they don't really have a signal phrase, but they do have the direct quote, so it's very clear of where the source information begins and ends. Try to use a variety of citation so that everything is not just direct quotes dropped in. It really interrupts the flow of your writing, and we can modify direct quotes a little bit, but really, unless something is said so amazingly well that it's necessary to keep it in direct quotes, we want to paraphrase and summarize as much as possible because it flows better with your writing. Okay, so again, this is a review of how to find a topic, how to research your topic, and then what your final paper should look like. Remember, this is a 50-point assignment grade, hopefully a large positive impact on your grade. It is also considered your final exam, so it is necessary that you submit something. Even if you don't think it's perfect, submit something, because then you've at least met the expectations of the course of having completed the assignment, because that is an expectation of the course, that this assignment is at least attempted. So please submit something, okay? Remember, most of the assignments are 10, maybe 20 points for the quizzes. So this being 50 points, it's equivalent to 5 other assignments. Again, it's your final exam. Okay, so ideally, you would be finishing this by the end of the week. If you're a senior, it is super duper important that you finish it before what would be your designated exam period. At the end of every exam day for seniors, I'm required to submit any pass or fail students. So it is super important that you submit this, especially if you're in a borderline situation. Remember, a pass grade for a college course is 70%. I have been emailing and texting people that might be below that. I probably have also sent you a text message if you've been above that to congratulate you, or maybe an email. So if you haven't checked your emails in my courses, I do encourage you to kind of make that a practice. And if there is anything you need, that is always the best way to reach me, is through the My Courses email. So I'm going to try to go back in to our course and show you that little email tab. Right here is the little email. If you just click on that, you likely have emails from me, and you could easily respond directly to me and tell me what you need so that I can help you. If you are still getting the pop-up with the little please take this survey, please take the survey. The college really expects me to get everyone to take it, to get feedback on the course and on me. I don't see it until well after you all are gone. And it is all anonymous, so I never know who said what. But if you think I've done a great job, it'd be nice to know that. If you think I've done a terrible job and there's something I should do better, please let us know that. Okay, hopefully you're the prior where I've done an awesome job, but you know, if there are things that you think could be done better, please let us know. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and conclude the recording, and hopefully this was helpful to anyone that might still be struggling with this assignment a little bit. Remember, please just make sure you try and do your best. Thanks, everybody. Looking forward to your viewpoints.